Namaste and welcome. My name's Julie Hill, and today I'd like to explore with you a little bit of movement through the lateral line of the body or the side line of the body. When we work in that movement, organizing and coordinating these muscles, you may be surprised to learn that it actually helps us when we're walking forward or back. In other words, when we move in the frontal plane side to side, it helps us in the sagittal plane front and back. And so we're going to work in this a little bit and kind of understand and explore a little bit how our body wants to move in this kind of frontal plane movement, and then kind of add on. You can do any of what I'm suggesting at your own pace. So maybe today you do a little, and maybe tomorrow you add on tomorrow, or perhaps you just stay right here the whole time. We'll start out exploring by spreading ourselves into a wide leg stance. And you want your feet to be parallel to each other. So in other words, your heels are going to line up with your second and third toe. And we're just going to start moving our hips side to side and kind of notice if perhaps that feels evenly moving to one side and then the other. Maybe you feel like you can go further with your hips over to the right than you can to the left, or vice versa. Or you notice that when you bring your hips over to the left, let's say there's a little bit of turning that wants to happen with your hips, or even with your torso, that your belly button or sternum are lined a little bit to the right. And so you're working just to keep yourself balanced, sternum, belly button, pubic bone facing straight forward as your hips kind of shift side to side in that frontal plane. You might feel a little stretch on the inside of your thighs or through one of the outside. And then just keeping your feet in that aligned position, you can start to add a little bend in the knee as you come over, lining up that knee with your big toe, kind of pressing into that outer pinky edge of the leg that's stretched. And again, we kind of pay attention to what's going on from head down to sit bones so that we're not kind of bent over or we're not jetting out our ribs, and just letting this movement kind of be found here. And again, you might have a tendency to kind of turn and face diagonally when you do this, so you're just working on getting that movement so it's nice and aligned as you're starting to feel a little bit of work through these side outer hip muscles, or maybe for you a little bit of release in the inner thigh muscles, starting to balance that out. If you wanted to take it a little bit further, you can start to add more load. You may choose just to stay right where you are, right? That's a nice movement. That might be perfect for today. If you want to play with loading it, we're going to keep these nice parallel feet and tip over to one side. So bring your weight out to that right foot. Here we're starting to really load this lateral line of the body. You can feel all the work happening through the leg, both sides, coming up the side, and just lightly into the shoulders. And the arms can go out and up or out and down, whatever's best for you. Trying both sides and just kind of tipping and seeing how far that you're able to go with still keeping your balance, but really being playful and having some curiosity here in this exploration. Right? And again, if you come to my classes, this is often something we do just to kind of check in, to kind of coordinate these muscles to help us. That might be a really fun place to play, and plenty with those two movements. If you're interested in exploring balancing half moon in yoga, you could do the same kind of loading over to the right with this lateral line of the body, but we're actually going to add a rotation or transverse plane in the standing leg. So letting that leg maybe roll a little bit diagonal, and then loading that side again to see how that hip really kind of handles that load. You can take it a little bit further and come still into that same loading space to see how that is, and kind of playing with a little up down, right? Don't have to stay in stillness at all to be in this exploration. We can do the same thing over to the left. I suggest starting with feet just kind of parallel, loading it here, see how that feels. And then from there, you can rotate this left leg a little bit diagonally, so the leg kind of points out, load that, see how this is. We're still moving in the frontal plane with the body, but we have a little bit of rotation with that femur leg bone in socket there. And then you can take it even further and play with that, coming into more of a traditional balancing half moon. Again, not necessarily finding stillness, but just kind of playing with how does this feel loading it for your leg. And then walk around and see how that feels after. Maybe you notice there's a difference coming through the balance between outer hip and inner thigh there as they work together to coordinate your movement in the sagittal plane. If you have any questions about this, or you have some hip pain, or maybe something going on that you'd like to perhaps dig into a little deeper and explore, feel free to reach out to me, juliehillmt.com. Here's to a happier and healthier you. Namaste.